Scott, can you just kind of take us through what preseason has been like? Obviously, the weather's not been great, but I don't think you don't mind a little cold, do you?
Yeah, for me, it's all right. We try to be outside as much as possible. We did lose one day that we did have to go inside Traeger just because the field was covered in ice. But when my girls think it's too cold, I just say, hey, it's cold gear, wear it. And that stuff. So the weather hasn't been in that much. We had a couple days we were out there for practice in like pouring down rain. So we just use that it's more adversity to fight through to keep going. The one challenge that we did have is we did pause because of COVID since we've been back this semester. That was probably more of a hindrance than the weather has.
When you look at rosters now, it's so different than it was a couple of years ago with grad seniors and grad students and an extra year and all that. How do you assess your roster? Because it seems like you have an older group, even though you've got a lot of freshmen, you've got some older kids.
Yeah, I think it's multiple fold. I think it goes into that my original plan on the rebuild, I might as well throw out the window. And that stuff too with the fifth year players staying around and that stuff. Then any coach would love to have fifth year players. They know your system, they know the expectations, they know the ACC speed. So it just makes our program more competitive. I can honestly say that from every position, from our goalie out, there's a competition now, and that's just going to grow and take our program to the next level.
What do you, when you look at the roster, when you look at the team, the schedule, kind of your expectations for this group and in moving forward? I know you got a tough early season schedule.
Yeah, we have to be firing on all cylinders right out of the gate. Like next weekend, going to Colorado and Denver. Those are two teams that expect to be in the tournament as well, and so we have to be ready right away. And I think if you look at last year's schedule, we had the number one schedule in the nation, playing those extra ACC teams. So it's a little bit lighter than last year, but it's still a challenging schedule. And we have to be ready every game, not look ahead of opponents. We just got to take it one day, one game at a time, and really make sure that we are firing on all cylinders and executing our scouts and our game plans. Because to reach our goal to get into the NCAA tournament, we have some games on our schedule that are really must wins. That we have to make sure, and they're not easy wins for sure.
Kind of on that note, I mean, you're just a couple days from getting on the plane and heading out to Colorado. As the head coach, I probably know the answer to this question, but are you comfortable with where your team is heading into the opener?
Yeah, if you would have asked me that question maybe a week to 10 days ago, I would have said we were behind. Really behind, but we've had a really good last week and a half of practice that we're ready. And we're almost, I haven't had the feeling yet, hey, we need to play someone to see what we need to work on. And usually you get that while you're waiting for your first game. So we're sort of, I haven't had that feeling yet, but I honestly think we're ready. We're ready. We're just fine tuning our systems a little bit. There isn't the sort of mental mistakes of going to the wrong place. It's more or less just executing and trying to increase the tempo of the play.
Caroline's played a lot of games. What does it mean to have her back for a year? And obviously she's the leader or one of the leaders of this team.
Yeah, definitely. When she made the decision that she was going to stay for a fifth year, it was an excellent feeling and that stuff. She's a 5-year captain. And I don't know if you can say that much in the NCAA in any sport. And her leadership skill and there has been some up and downs in her career. She had a really good freshman year, sophomore year. Okay, it wasn't a surprise. Everyone knew her. And then I thought the last 2 years she really found her groove. And we're expecting big things, and she's starting to raise her game to the expectations, and it's not she's excelling with the other team keying on her, and that's where she struggled a little bit when the teams were keying on her, just trying to figuring it out. But she definitely has figured it out, and we need to count on her a lot.
You lost a couple of close ones to really good teams last year. Duke was ranked, Boston College was ranked, Virginia was also ranked. You talk about that rebuild. How has your program developed to face them again this year, and how do you feel about your chances?
Yeah, even though the outcome wasn't what we wanted, we learned from those experiences. And last year's season, when we played, I think it was three of the top four teams, not once but twice. You just get better down the road from playing in those environments and learning and fine tuning, and the girls get more comfortable with those games. I go back a couple years ago when we would go into those games, it was like everything had to go right for us to win. Now there's the expectation, hey, that we can compete with these teams and we can win those games. So now it is the next step is to win those. We got to find a way to win those tight games when the game is on the line. And usually, if you go back in those film, it's like we play really good for about 45, 50 minutes, and it's that 10 to 15 minutes that sort of is our Achilles heel. So if we can just figure that out and play for a full 60, I think the quarters, us going to quarters like women's basketball did a few years ago, will help a little bit. That we have just a little bit more time for rest. We're deeper. That we don't need to rest girls on the field now. That, hey, we can rest them on the sideline and not really miss a beat, okay, with our players coming in. So it's all positive.
When you, the ACC obviously is tough. You mentioned the early season schedule. Kind of your thoughts on the ACC as a whole, and it's just so brutal year in and year out.
Yeah, it's considered the number one conference in our sport, and is there. Like we have four teams that are in the top five in the nation, and then you have right where I think where we are in that middle tier, and then you look at Pitt. University of Pittsburgh that's making their debut, they got the transfer portal really helped them out. Like their superstar Paige Petty was a standout player for Virginia Tech, that went there in a good supporting cast. So like that's a team too. It's not going to be an easy one for their first one. That we got to be ready for that. So in the ACC, you have to be ready day in day out. And you're going to play those teams multiple times because you're going to see them again in the ACC tournament. And if we do advance through some rounds in the NCAA tournament, chances are you're going to see them again. Like it's very common in the Final Four that there's three ACC teams in there with the goal to have four. Okay, and that's one of our ACC goals is trying to monopolize that Final Four, and for us it's just being right in the mix of the rebuild, and really we call it a rebuild, but the rebuild sort of out now. That we can't use that as an excuse anymore. That we're deep. We have 37 girls on our roster. I think my first year we had 20 active. Okay, and so we've built it right there, and it's competitive. That I know we're using the term rebuild, but hey, it's got to be more or less that, hey, it's an advancement to advance the program now.
Did anybody have any questions online? Dalton?
Hey, Coach, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Awesome. With the recent news that alum Kay Morissette, Brenda Shanahan, and now currently Nicole Peroni getting named to the Canadian squad for the 2022 World Cup, how big of an honor is that, and how proud of you are proud of yeah. Right.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's a great accomplishment. Like, so right now you have the Americans and the Canadians that are 1-2, arguably in the World Cup, and for us to have three players at different levels of our program to join that at the elite level is outstanding, and it even brings it a little bit more that it's in the U.S. That we're going to Towson for the game or for the tournament is as well. And we still got to name the World Games team, the Sixes game too, and I think we'll be represented as well in there that I'm coaching as well. And the other thing is too, it hasn't been sort of released yet too. We're going to have another member that's going to join me on my coaching staff that has Louisville ties as well too. That should be coming soon with Coach Daly, who's been with me again. So definitely well represented. I think Nicole Peroni is playing extremely confident right now. That I'm not sure what she ate or what she did over the summer, but she needs to continue doing it. She's growing through the Team Canada process. That is confident. That is probably going to log a lot of minutes and is really getting some national attention. The official Lax girl in our game against the U.S. in October basically tweeted out that this Nicole Peroni is the real deal. And that's sort of the stuff that she needs to hear, because we're seeing it on the practice field carry over, which is outstanding.
And then one more for you. You bring in a huge recruiting class, 13 members. You mentioned competition at pretty much every position. How are the incoming additions kind of factoring into that competition?
The newcomers, they're battling. Obviously, when you're an upperclassman, one of the worst things that can happen is if you lose your starting job to a freshman. And we're going to have freshmen right away, starting this weekend, that are going to log some minutes for us and play. And there will be even probably a couple that will be even starting in their position, that they've came in, they've adjusted to the speed, they're understanding our systems, and are really part of the reason why we're ready to go to the next level, ready to take it. And there's really no excuses anymore. And not being a rebuild is just having those players just elevating and pushing our upperclassmen to new levels as well.
Coach, can you talk about replacing Rachel in net? I mean, she's been such a big part of the team the last couple of years.
Yeah, or Rachel Fleurig, who was sort of scheduled and originally was going to stay for her 5th year, and then had that last-minute decision that had another opportunity that she couldn't pass up in there. And that's probably one question mark that I have as of right now. And it doesn't mean we're not talented in goal. It's just we don't have game experience. And we don't have that game experience. There's just a question mark. How are we going to be able to handle the different adversities and that stuff? And Sarah's ready. She's a talented goalie but only really has 30 minutes of ACC play. And when she played there, it showed. When we put her in against Boston College last year, it showed just a little bit of the inexperience, but hopefully she can use that to her knowledge. And then Jay came in, and a little bit of a different style than Sarah, but is really came on as of late. And right now, do we have a clear-cut starter for the goal? No. And we could go either way. And I'm going to say early on in the year, they're both going to see time. And then one of them will win the starting job, and we'll go with the hot hand.
Coach, obviously, you're pretty busy with your own team and program and building that up. But did you get a chance to see the volleyball team's success? And if so, how exciting was that? And obviously the hopes to model after them.
Oh yeah, definitely. That was an unbelievable run that they had, and that stuff. And that's kudos to Danny and her coaching staff and the athletes, and that stuff. For the amount of adversity that the athletes are going through this pandemic that we're having, for them to be able to put that storybook season together. And to get through and get on a roll and really carry it on day after day, and that stuff. It's definitely like a measuring stick, and it just shows the success that you have here in our athletic department at Louisville, and that's in that. Like you look at our soccer teams, and then you look at like field hockey, okay, Final Four, and then the Elite Eight coming on since I've been here, just really building. So the expectations are definitely there. And we need to be one of the programs that takes the next step as well, because it's definitely the resources are here, and we're provided with them, that there's really no excuses. And we don't want to use any excuses, and we're definitely going to model like what volleyballs did and that stuff, because I believe Danny was the coach that was hired right before I was. Okay, in the program as well. So it's about the timetables there. Now, might have been a little bit of different situation than what I was in terms of rebuild of number of personnel, but definitely it was right on her timetable, the timetable for success, and they had an outstanding year.
Anything else? Thanks, everybody.
All right, thanks, guys. Hey, no, I appreciate it. Thank you.